Hi Libra, it's Lee at Fresh Astrology. How are you doing? Happy New Year and welcome to 2019. It's going to be a big year. It's exciting for everyone. Exciting is a key word here because of the planet of excitement. First, let me say that if you want to ask me a question, you can go to my Facebook page, Fresh Astrology on Facebook. You can email me at freshastrology@gmx.com. You can purchase a reading or a life coaching session with me at www.freshastrology.com. If you want to take my upcoming course in January, I have space available in the course. All the rest are full, but I have a little bit of space left in the course where you learn my coaching approach to providing a reading. So this could be an astrology reading, it could be tarot, it could be a psychic reading. The emphasis is not on learning astrology, the emphasis is on, or even knowing astrology as an expert would, but more on how you think about the client, what tools you use to help them. You can even apply these tools to yourself. You can apply them throughout your life in many situations, not just an astrology reading. So they're valuable coaching tools, but you can see, I'll give you insight into and teach you specifically how to work with a client in that kind of consulting, personal consulting capacity, whether it's through an astrology reading, tarot, psychic reading, or any other way of interacting. These are broad use tools, but we'll get a lot of practice, and you'll get a lot of practice using them in a reading setting. And it's not mandatory, but I will offer to some of you who want to take me up on it, you can practice through my channel once you're ready. I'll teach you how to get a video up there, and you can try your hand at it more publicly, or on my Facebook page if you want a smaller audience. But that's just for those of you who want to try. Also, if you're a woman over 40 and you have a business or want to start a business, you can go to the Tribe link, join Tribe. It's free. It's a community, growing community there for you. All right, so let's move on with the reading. Libra. So what I've been saying is I like about the Chinese zodiac this idea that you would just say, ooh, it's our Chinese New Year, and the whole next year is the year of the pig. That's it. That's all you have to know. And you just have to know the symbolism and the meaning around the pig, what that means for you, just with a few kind of symbolic paint strokes. You know what a pig means. Go, enjoy your year. I like how simple and easy that is to remember. Everybody can remember it's the year of the pig while it's the year of the pig. Even as 2 years later, you can remember that it was the year of the pig, because that's just so easy to remember. I like those kinds of things around astrology too. I like focusing and knowing some of just the big umbrella, big buckets that catch big things approach, so that it's easy conceptually. I personally, even though I can go into a lot of detail in astrology, I do not like to live my life that way in a practical way. So I think our version of the pig is Uranus. And I would say, if I had to pick one thing, it's the year of Uranus changing signs from Aries into Taurus. And that really, that energy, that pervasive energy from that big shift will permeate the whole year, regardless of all the other stuff going on. And there is other stuff going on. There's a ton of detail. You can just, it's an unending onion that you can peel, astrology. There's always more depth you can go into, always, always. But after a while, it's like your mind really can't absorb all of that in a practical way. You can go down the wormholes of study and following one question that you want to ask the chart, or just learning astrology is endless. There's no end to learning it. But again, in a practical way, how can you remember what astrology is doing for you this year. And I say doing for you. It's not doing to you, it's doing for you. And it's doing through you. Astrology is working through you. It's how do you express what's the energy of Uranus? How are you expressing it? How are you expressing it? How is it moving through you? And how are you acting as a result? Let's look. So for the past 7 years, and you probably have a good bead on what's been going on for you over the past 7 or 8 years, unless you've been in a coma. And I don't mean that, if you literally have been in a coma, I'm sorry, but then you know that you were in a coma. But most of you weren't, and you probably know over the last 7 to 8 years, the world of your relationships has dramatically shifted. People have gotten married, divorced, maybe married again. A lot has changed in your world of relationships, and it's been chaotic. It has not been a smooth ride at all. A lot of you have had a partner, could be an ex, could be a current partner, but you've had a partner who is acting like the planet Uranus, metaphorically. Maybe they've been highly unpredictable. Maybe they've had mood fluctuations. Maybe they've seemed chaotic in their behaviors or choices. Maybe you just can't understand what's going on for your partner. Some of you, at some point over the last 8 years, have gotten just fed up. You're done. It's time to move on. You're done. But some of you have also changed things up so much that you're with, surprisingly, unexpectedly, seemingly out of nowhere, you have a new partner. You maybe began to think, I will never, ever, ever, ever meet someone. Never, ever. And recently, or maybe in the like in the first quarter of 2019, you might actually, out of thin air, find someone. And it rocks, it totally shakes up and changes your partnership zone and, how you live and experience love. And some of you, it's somebody who's just very Uranian in nature. Sometimes it's somebody who lives at a distance, and there's maybe a lot of travel involved. Definitely what's happened is you've had to change to be in this new partnership. If you have a new one, you've had to change your outlook on life a lot. And we'll get to that later. And I spoke to that I think in your reading for this first quarter. It has to do with your whole vision of what home and family has to be recast and re-envisioned to cope with what's happened. And this is all equally true if you've had a big breakup. If the last 7 to 8 years have brought a final ending to a relationship, it's going to cause you, and has caused you, to question and reformulate what you think of as a family and a family situation, what a family looks like. So it's important work, very psychological work that you're doing right now. Maybe for some of you, if it hasn't been like an ending or beginning of a new relationship, it's reformulating what a close relationship is. You've had to incorporate and embrace what is, and accept, if you've stayed in a relationship, life has forced you hard, and you've had to work hard to stretch and grow and expand your definition of what a good relationship looks like, or a relationship, what a family looks like or feels like, especially if you have anybody with mental illness in your family, or anybody who's unconventional, you've had, or does things that you can't control or predict. You have to just, if you want them in your life and you want to keep this unit together, whether it's a relationship or a family, you have to maybe stretch and grow to allow somebody room to be what they are, or people to be who they are. And bravo. It takes a lot of mental gymnastics to do that sometimes. But this phase is ending. But I just want you to get a kind of sense of what you've been through and the huge change that's occurred through your partnership zone. And this could also be at work. You may have changed partnerships at work too, and that's totally changed your world and caused you to grow. Now what's happening is Uranus is entering the 8th house. As it goes over this threshold, something typically does begin or end. So it may not be a relationship itself. It may be some kind of financial decision. Sometimes you do see the passing of someone, but it doesn't even have to be anybody necessarily close to you with Uranus. But sometimes you do see, it could be a friend or even just a friend of a friend, but sometimes you do see the passing of someone when a major planet goes over this threshold. But what I've seen from experience is it doesn't have to be someone close to you, but you'll know them. So don't get scared. I mean, we don't like the idea of anyone passing usually, but people do die. And what I've seen is, again, I want to emphasize, it doesn't even have to be, it's not your partner necessarily. It's not, in fact, I think it's less likely to be, I think it's more about the partnership for some of you ending or beginning. But because it's shaking up this threshold between kind of life and death, usually you'll see some people passing around this time. Could be aunts, uncles, grandparents, friends of friends, but don't get too scared. Sometimes that stuff's going to happen regardless of Uranus, but that you will see some of that. Just in case you're learning astrology, that you will see that when that doorway is shaken open suddenly, it is kind of like a veil, but it's more like a doorway. But sometimes people think of a veil more with life and death. It's more open. And so things pass through. You'll see some of that. Sometimes it'll suddenly, you may see when things pass through, old relationships can come back in. You may have seen that already because of Uranus's backtrack, but that's one of the things that can occur, probably already has. But what's going to happen is that whole area of partnership is going to settle down, and now what you're going to find out is you're going to do more psychological work. And it's just the truth. And it doesn't have to be bad. I think most people, when they hear they need to do psychological work, or that's what astrology is telling them to do, I generally see people not looking super excited. It's usually disappointing. And but other fun stuff can be happening at the same time. But often when fun stuff's happening, especially if it's new fun stuff, like a new relationship or a new phase in your relationship world, a lot of fun stuff can happen. But fun new stuff also causes you to grow psychologically. So sometimes we're growing psychologically because we've gotten married, because we've just made $1 million, because we're getting to know someone on a whole new level and developing a type of intimacy we've never known before. That causes you to grow and do psychological work. You win the lottery, you have to grow a lot. Tons of psychological crap happens to people who win the lottery. It can be excruciatingly difficult psychologically and emotionally to win the lottery. So something really positive, like getting married, like having a baby, not that that's you, but positive stuff causes huge emotional growth and turmoil. Any change does. So when you hear, as I'm telling you, that you're going to do even more psychological stretching and growth, don't think it's bad news. A lot of good stuff could be happening to you now. Getting new jobs, meeting new people, I don't know, going back to school, learning something new, traveling, going out and seeing more of the world, especially locally. You're out and about more. Things feel more, daily life feels more fun in general. I do think a lot of you do have a new relationship or something setting up in relationship growth. But so there's going to be growth. The area of growth has to do with dealing with your fears and psychological baggage around money. It's time, the planets are saying, to clean out these closets, these old closets where you've stuffed old beliefs and thoughts, things you don't want to look at around money, whether or not you can trust yourself around money, what money means, what happens if you get money, what happens if you lose money, what happens if people find out about your money, what people think of you, all these fears that we can have. We all have them to some degree. You're being forced to enter that doorway with Uranus and go in there. And Uranus is like constant strikes of lightning where you're forced with that blinding light to see what's you've stuffed in this dark nook and cranny of your psyche, around fears around material possessions and money and how you can be trusted. It's a lot to do with self-worth and self-trust. You're forced to see stuff about yourself and then rework how you feel about yourself and see yourself, hopefully in a positive light. It's a good time to be in therapy. It's a good time to be coaching. You can be self-coaching if you're reading good self-help books. You can self-coach yourself. You don't need to go seek external help, but it is a good time to be guided by others who are wise in this in the methods of going through this type of passage that we all go through. It's a type of growth passage we all go through from time to time, and there are ways to go through it and think about it philosophically and spiritually that can be of assistance. But really, at the end of the day, all it is having to see stuff about yourself that you have been blind to or not wanted to see, but you're being forced to see it. And this is actually good news. Because if you've ever felt like you've been stuck or you don't understand why you keep shooting yourself in the foot, why does this keep happening over whatever it is, whatever negative pattern has happened over and over and over and over, and you don't understand why it keeps happening and you just can't seem to escape the pattern, this is the time to break the pattern. You are now getting an opportunity and a lot of celestial help to break any negative pattern. It's time to turn on the lights, open the eyes, see, forgive yourself, forgive others, accept yourself, love yourself, even if you're flawed, and we all are. It's time to do that work, and you're going to be forced to do it. So there's no choice. But, people choose how they deal with this kind of thing. You can choose to, even though all of heaven is conspiring to help you break scary patterns in your life. It's like trying to help a child. If you think of a very young child who is scared of their room in the darkness, and you want to help them by taking them into the room and turning on the light, and they still will go like this. They still want to cover their eyes because the room has been dark, they're still scared. There's just something there they can't handle. So they're still like clinging to the parent leg and and you can try to pull their hands away and they don't want to look. Even though the lights are on, it's fine. They're like teddy bears sitting there in their bed. And that's it. They're like fluffy slippers. And they just are still terrified to look just because the room was dark and their imagination has gotten really wild and created all kinds of monsters. And that's kind of what's going on. So it's like your celestial heavenly parents are taking you into this room to help rid you of the nightmare that you've imposed on yourself. And they're going to show you that they're going to turn on the light repeatedly. Lightning strike, that's Uranus. And you're going to be there like this. a lot of you. And a lot of you are just going to be the kid who totally can't and just like goes screaming and running, and you can't drag them into that well-lit, fluffy, comfortable room because they've just lost it, as kids will do sometimes. But then a lot of you will learn to kind of peek and like, oh, okay. You know, there is this giant shadow created by my lamp over there. It does still kind of look like a monster, but I can see it's both shadow and monster. I can see that it's both. You know, and I see my, my slippers seemed like, a hairy hand sticking out from under the bed, but I see that they're both hairy hand and slipper. I see how it's both. My scary mind still can see it's a scary hand, but my awake mind can see it's just fluffy bunny slippers. And so that's what you're going into, Libra. So it's all there to help you maybe have a successful relationship, maybe have successful financial health. So it's all there to help you heal, but you have to look. So good luck with the looking. But I have faith that all of you will be able to do it. And I think there's a lot of exciting, fun stuff happening, maybe especially in relationships for many of you. But you just have to learn new ways of seeing things, and you have to open your eyes a bit. All right, take care.